What is up, guys, gals, and all you awesome means and gamers of different shapes and sizes? It is me, Josh, again, Proxy, bringing you some more Dawn of War free content today, and it's going to be so freaking awesome because I'm going to be showing you a new hero class for the Space Marines, which is very, very fantabulous, which is obviously a combination of fantastic and fabulous. They do actually look pretty fabulous, as you can see here, this nice little preview video that I've actually made for you on the side of the hero selection. These dudes are the Terminators. They are so powerful, but also incredibly straightforward, which is quite accessible for people who don't really want to have that whole APM thing going for them. You know, this whole thing with like StarCraft 2 where it's all about actions per minute, where you have to make sure you're moving around the entire arena at all times, making sure that every single move you do is counting towards something. I'm not into that kind of thing. I'm very straightforward when it comes to RTS. I enjoy the base building, but also making a nice little force of complementing units. So generally when it comes to Dawn of War 3, I like to really focus on the infantry, because the infantry is a little bit more accessible at getting all of that kind of army together in the first place. Generally you'd kind of get the vehicles a little bit later on. They also cost a lot more than the standard units, and the great thing about the Space Marines is they have a very nice combination of different Space Marines along with, say, anti-vehicle and also of course anti-infantry. So it's one of those things where if you don't really want to worry about getting vehicles, you don't have to. There's some really cool vehicles, but you don't really have to worry about them in a sense. You can actually go down two different paths. You could either have vehicles, or you could actually have infantry, or you can have a combination of two, but generally it'll cost a lot more to have actually a combination, because you're having to go down both skill trees, and that's not really good in a sense. But, comment section below, let me know, what do you prefer to do? Do you like to have the infantry more, or do you like to have the vehicles? Obviously, like the things like the Dreadnoughts, or the Predator tanks. You've got so many different selections, but today is all about focusing on those hero units. So as mentioned, we're going to be looking at the Terminators. Now, the Terminators are a little bit more unique. As I said, they actually have a bit more of a straightforwardness to them, but they are still really, really cool, really powerful, and there's a lot of tactics when it comes to using them. Now, the main thing about the Terminators, which I will bring up later on, because you will actually see gameplay of me using them, is that they come packing with chain guns. The chain guns are really, really badass. They are kind of like a suppression unit, kind of like the standard Space Marine bolters. Now, the heavy bolter units obviously come with these giant, well, heavy bolters, and they're really good for kind of like holding position, keeping the enemy back unless they are snipers, but the really cool thing about the Terminators is because of those chain guns, they get a little bit more damage, along with the ability to also use a rocket silo pack on their back, and this actually builds up over time. You don't actually get to fire this off like, say, the Whirlwind tanks. This actually allows you to build it up over time, actually get a nice selection of combo rockets. I think it goes up to about 7. I believe you can get up to 7 missiles if you're doing continuous fire on the enemy, and then you can just set them all loose. You can just fire them all onto an actual enemy, and it's so powerful. Like, I think you could possibly take down a quarter of an enemy, say, Titan's health. So you already know the Space Marines can actually have the Titan units now, which are these gigantic-ass double Gatling gun mechs. There is also the cannon one with the chainsaw as well, which I will hopefully show you in the future as well. But when it comes to using the Terminators on enemy heroes, they are incredibly powerful. Obviously, they have that suppression, which is really good for helping other units, but that rocket launcher pack is very, very powerful, especially, again, just for contributing to that damage. They aren't like an all-out damager, but they're really good as a support. And this actually comes as a really good thing as well, because they obviously come with a additional selection of 2 different abilities. Now, you may notice on the right side of the screen, we actually have 3 different abilities that I have picked in my loadout. We have one which allows the heavy bolters to actually be able to fire in heavy cover or in stealth, as you can see here, just moving some units into the side there just to make sure they're all looked after. But by putting heavy bolters in there, along with snipers, as you can see, I have that loadout ability too, it actually means that they can fire out a longer distance, which is very, very useful. Not actually doing that right now, because you actually have to, this is the really unusual thing, when you actually want to fire with the heavy bolters or the snipers in shrouded cover, you have to manually do it, which is very annoying. Unless you have them out in the open, then they just fire away automatically. As you may notice as well in the back, the heavy bolters are doing a really good job of holding back the enemy. One thing I really love to do is combine the 2 of snipers and heavy bolters, and as you can see, it's a really, this mowing down, like lawnmower on a grass kind of shizzle onto the enemy selection of Space Marines in the back there, which have started to run away. The enemy are trying to drop down some Assault Marines, but it's not working. But look, they are running at me with their Space Marines, which is a really bad idea. But also combining that Flamethrower unit on the left side there, which has been able to blow past all of those Assault Marines, trying to take down my infantry units. But no. They have not been able to break that. We're able to cover both fronts with this outpost here, able to set fire to all of their Assault Marines on the left side, but also stop them from doing a forward charge with the Space Marines and using snipers along with those heavy bolters. Now, they actually bring in a little bit more Space Marine units in here, so it's not very good, but keeping my snipers in the back here, using flamethrowers from my Death Watch hero unit along with my Space Marines as well. Look, keeping them at bay, but look how much health that charges through. It's so freaking powerful. Also there, using a slow-mo grenade from the Death Watch, which is obviously a unique ability to them. Very, very powerful. It's really unusual as well that the Death Watch has this singular grenade, which can just do such amazing kind of complementary debuffing, because obviously it slows down the enemy. It doesn't really do damage, but it slows down the enemy, which is very, very useful. My Death Watch actually a little bit weak here, so I'm going to have to bring them back and get them all healed up. Sadly, it does actually take a little bit of a delay to get them healed up, because once they've been in combat, there's kind of like a cooldown before they can be healed next to your structures, so remember that in the future. But we saw that the heavy bolters, the sniper rifles, were gunning everybody down, along with that combination of the flamethrower, and now we've actually got an enemy Gabriel Angelos trying to get through here to do something to me. Now remember, he does actually have a lunge ability along with that whirlwind shield, which actually knocks back all enemies and creates a ranged defense for himself through a little bit of a force field, but it only lasts for a while. It's very good for kind of creating a wall between, say, your infantry and the enemies, because it kind of like blocks fire between the two. So you're kind of like, if you're Gabriel, you're kind of like right in the middle, like the meat of the sandwich, you know, they're the kind of the wholemeal bread and you're the ham. A force field ham. But I'm not actually going to bring down my Gabriel Angelos yet, because obviously we're going to be focusing on bringing you the Terminators, and the Terminators are so freaking good. Here's a nice little preview again of what they look like, and this is a really cool thing. Chain guns, rocket launchers. I did mention that they are kind of like the whirlwind tanks. Now this is the thing with the whirlwind tanks. The whirlwind tanks have a little bit of a cooldown. This is something that's a little bit different compared to the original whirlwind tanks of, say, Dawn of War 1. I believe you could actually have a singular whirlwind tank in Dawn of War 2. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But with these whirlwind tanks, they obviously have a little bit of a cooldown. You fire off the rocket barrage, and it takes them around about 30 to 50 seconds to actually recharge that payload again, to actually do another firing thing. But when it comes to the Terminators, they actually build up their payload through just suppressive fire, which is really, really cool. So if you actually have continuous attack, they will end up building that set of rocket pods out, and then you just build them up again. It's this thing where you fire them off and use build them up again. So you can actually do continuous fire while also using a special ability on the go, while compared to other hero units, once they've used their ability, you have to wait for the cooldown. But no, the Terminators do not have to worry about that, so very, very cool. Now, as I say Terminators, one thing to remember is that the Terminators actually come in two different selections when it comes to the Space Marine hero units. You obviously have the chain gun Terminators, which we're going to be using today, along with the Assault Terminators. Now, the Assault Terminators actually have hammers and shields. You may remember them from the original Dawn of War and obviously Dawn of War 2. And those ones kind of like teleport but have that melee focus about them. They have a way better health pool as well. Also, look at this, a massive... Wait, we had a little bit of lag here, which is a little bit worrying, obviously, but nice little jump jet from my allied Assault Marines there, actually backing them up with my ranged units, obviously heavy bolters along with Space Marines to back them up as well in the rear, because you never know when the enemy's going to try and flank. This is the thing, you have to be really, really careful. We're going to try and stay in the back while my allied units try and push the enemy from their power generator. As you can see here, we need to try and focus on taking these down, so then we can actually head towards their base. My allies are actually running back now because they have actually lost a few of their numbers, and obviously as well, we don't want to be losing any Space Marines here. The Tactical Marines are very average units, but those heavy bolters gunning everything down. Now, once I actually bring down my Terminators, here they come, baby. They are so freaking good. Now, when they actually activate and come onto the field, heavy bolters, the giant chain gun little dudes, won't be able to do the build-up anymore. One thing that the standard heavy bolters have to do is build up their weapons. They have to kind of like set up in a sense, because they're obviously heavy guns. But the really cool thing about those Terminators, once they drop down, as I just said, you don't have to worry about doing that setup anymore. They will fire automatically. So as you're going to see here, look, they're actually going to come forwards, advance next to the Terminators, and then just open fire. There is no setup, no build-up to those guns there, and that is really powerful and very, very unique, and very, very useful as well. Because obviously with a lot of heavier units, they all come with build-ups. Say with the Orcs, they actually have chain gunners and they have a build-up as well. The Eldar actually have anti-weapon and anti-infantry units too, just like the lascans and the heavy bolters, but they all require build-ups. But because that Terminator unit, they actually take that away from the heavy bolters, which is such a unique ability. And remember, that is one of two abilities that you can actually pick. So you actually got a selection if you actually want that or not. But it means that you can actually advance, kind of replace the standard Tactical Marines in a sense with heavy bolters, and it's just really useful. It just means that they can actually get into the fight a lot faster and just have that higher payload of ammunition on the enemy forces. Look at the blood! There's just so much freaking everywhere, and also combining all those plasma rifles as well. Oh, just look at the blue laser bolts just flying everywhere. So freaking powerful. Now, one thing to mention about that, though, is that because I have plasma guns, it means that those tactical marines will actually have to reload. Those guns will overheat. You may notice a little red bar under their health. That is actually the overheating of the plasma guns. So one thing you actually have to do is make sure they don't overheat, or if they do, you have to wait for them to recharge and then they can fire again. But then again, just as I said with the Terminator units, you can actually get the hero class dreadnought and bring that dude down. It actually means that the plasma guns don't overheat. So again, just like the Terminators, you have this thing where the heavy bolters don't have to set up, but then if you actually bring down the hero class dreadnought, the plasma guns of the tactical marines don't have to reload. So you have a really nice selection of hero types that all have these really cool buffing abilities. Now the problem here, as you can see, we have the enemy turret right in the middle of this lane. Now the worrying thing about that is that we can actually potentially lose a lot of units. One major tactic when it comes to taking down this turret is to try and spread out all of your units. If you've actually played the campaign, it's one of the first things that the game tries to teach you, is that if you're going to be attacking this turret head on, try and make sure you have a nice surrounding of units and not just a massive cluster, because that giant turret laser will actually cut through all of them. You might actually potentially see this where it just completely blows through everybody. You can actually lose an entire army if you clump them all together. So one thing to remember, separate them all out, or try and do a flanking position. So generally, let's say if you're actually using a lot of infantry focus units, as I am actually right now, you can actually still bring down the machine pit and actually activate, say, some dreadnoughts to drop down with your drop pods. Put them behind. It means that the turret is actually aiming away from you, but it's having to focus on those two separate dreadnoughts from opposing sides, and it means that all of your infantry can actually focus fire on that. So as you can see, look, it is going to start mowing through my space marines, and I do not want that to happen. This is my actual main army. If I lose them, then we're actually going to have no forward attack. Main reason being is because on the bottom left I actually have my teammates going around the back, so I'm actually kind of like the frontline diversion while trying to fight that turret, while my teammates are trying to go around and take down the other enemy generator and get into their base. And this is actually a really cool thing to remember, is that there is only one singular turret on this map, but if you can actually get an army to go around the back of the enemy base, that means they don't have to worry about the shield generator. So always remember that. Try and get one army focusing on that turret just so they can take it down. That means that you can actually run right down the middle of the lane and go straight into that base, but also have another army, because they've got 3 people in a team here, have them go round. Even actually say get one guy going on the left, one guy on the right, and one guy in the middle. That means that you've got there's just so much potential. And this is the thing as well, is that if you are a singular army going against an entire triplage of an enemy team, you could still take them all down. This is the really cool thing about Dawn of War 3, is that there are so many abilities that are kind of like a checkmate system. As I just said, the turrets can actually wipe out an entire enemy force, or even your force. We actually got the enemy space marines rushing at me here, which is going to be very interesting. But because I actually have that instant setup with my Terminators and my heavy bolters, we're just going to mow them. Look at that, just blood and guts everywhere, space marine bits all over the place. I am so sorry, Blood Ravens, but we're gonna have to gun you down today. That was so cool. They had such a force, and now they have like, what, 5 dudes? Now, along with that, I've actually brought down my Gabriel Angelos. Gabriel Angelos is a really good support unit for helping your team in case, let's say, the enemy team drop down a lot of assault marines. The Gabriel Angelos has the ability to obviously use that whirlwind, and that lunge is so cool, as you saw there, allows you to actually climb over the environment. But with that whirlwind ability, it means that if you are supporting your team with attacking assault marines, you can use that whirlwind ability and then smack them all the way, stun them, while your space marines actually focus on killing them. You can also use the teleport ability for your Terminators, as I've done here. Now, we're actually going to be building up my rocket pack here, so you will actually see me fire that away. I'm just going to click on them in a moment, and then I will use that on the enemy Space Marines. Also, taking this heavy cover, this is something to remember. If you take the heavy cover, you can actually use that to your advantage, keep your units invulnerable. Here, we're going to be firing that rocket pack off right now. Look, that is so cool, dropping it on all of those enemies. I think those are assault marines, and they took a nice little bit of damage there. I did actually keep them a little bit outside of the attack zone, because I actually had them in a different position originally, but then the enemy team did actually move their assault marines there, so that was a little bit of a shame. But we're going to be getting a little bit closer here to the enemies, building up my nice little selection of drop pods. As you can see, we're going to drop those onto the side of the enemy here as well. But, oh, that was a really bad move. Having that librarian just sat in the front. That's not a librarian, that's Diomedes. Oh my goodness. Now, this is the thing. As I mentioned, brand new different different hero units. We now have Diomedes from Dawn of War 2, who is pretty much a chaplain. You may remember them, a chaplain from Dawn of War 1, who is the skull-faced kind of looking librarian. He can also do the attack buff, kind of like rally call. That's kind of like his main focus when it comes to using the chaplain in the Dawn of War games. Also, enemy Gabriel Angelos just rushing at my team. That was a really poor thing to do. Waste of elite relic points as well, because remember, those elite relic points are very, very rare. The enemy team has no way of actually attacking me, so what we're going to do here is actually use my Terminators to distract, I guess. I try and use the teleport ability as well to move them out of the way, but they are getting slowly gunned down by that laser turret. This is the thing, going to try and flank them, but at the same time as that, I was trying to build them up. Now, as I said, with that tactic of using flankage, I'm going to drop a dreadnought on the side of the enemy turret here. This will turn that enemy turret around, and now I should be able to attack with my Space Marine units. But for some reason... Oh, no, it wasn't! Oh, I stand completely corrected. That was actually, oh, that's really, really cool. That was actually the turret barrage. Now, with the turret barrage, that actually allows you to fire in a complete 360 with turrets from a drop pod while also healing your units if you have Gabriel Angelos on the field. Now, I've actually mentioned this where all of the kind of like units have these like little special abilities about them if they're heroes. Now, with Gabriel Angelos, if he has like these drop pods come down, obviously if you do like Dreadnoughts or if you have Space Marines or if you have heroes, it actually means that those units will actually get healed over time, which is very, very cool. But sadly, I had no one near them. Now, I'm actually going to bring in Gabriel Angelos here to try and distract the enemy. We also got the... Wow, we've got an Eldar as well coming in there as well. I think that's actually a... Would that be a Warlord? That actually might be a Warlord moving around there. It's not a hero type though, sadly, which is a bit of a shame. These are actually the melee types of the swords. You have ones with like the giant range cannons as well. I can't believe I didn't use my Dreadnought tactic there. We have the enemy team pushing back my allies here, but we have finally taken down the enemy turret, so we will actually be pushing into the final beacon. Also going to be contributing to that damage with my orbital barrage, which is just a nice little icing on the cake, I guess you could say. The enemy team are actually trying to do something on that right lane there, but sadly are actually getting attacked by my fellow allies' orbital barrage as well. Just tickling the generator there with the orbital barrage on my own, but finally we're going to be finishing them off here. I think we've actually got this in the bag. Comment section below, let me know, what did you think this match? I would love, love, love to know. What did you think to the Terminators? I will hopefully bring you some Assault Terminators in the future, but it's actually been a nice little gameplay feature, a little tease of what the Terminators can do with that rocket barrage, along with the chain gun as well. But it's been me, Josh, again, Proxy, bringing you some Dawn of War 3, and I will see you all next time. Ciao for now.